recording. There it goes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Forcefest. Thank you for joining us. My name is Gabriel. I'm the Assistant Global Director for Saber Guild International, the largest LucasFilm recognized costuming club and choreography club in the world. We are here to talk to you about what we do, what good we do for our community, and how we go about it. I'd like to take a moment, though, to allow my fellow panelists and council members to introduce themselves. Why don't we start with Seattle?
Hi, everybody. I'm Chrissy Morse, and I am the Global Costume Director. So I lead the team of Global Costume Consulars, who are the judges, as well as the local costume consulars who help individuals submit their costumes and make revisions.
And hello, people of the internet. I am Kate Ahern. I am the Global Director. My main focus is to drive the direction of the organization, help craft policy with the rest of the council members, and generally, oversee functions of our entire organization worldwide.
Going West Coast to East Coast with a barking dog in the background. Let's go to Austin.
All right. Hi, everybody. So my name's Addie Ruth. I am the Global PR Director, and that means everything from merchandising, branding, social media, and all kinds of other PR assets fall under my purview, as well as technical.
And then last but certainly not least, Miami.
Hello there. My name's Armando. I am the Global Membership Director. So I support new members, prospective members, especially those trying to build a part of Saber Guild in a neighborhood area by them that doesn't have a temple yet, as well as emerging temples and anyone else within the guild who reaches out to me who needs any type of support. I am here for them.
All right. So a lot of people who are watching this are probably already familiar with some of the other costume clubs out there. 501st, Rebel Legion, Mando Mercs. A lot of people ask what makes Saber Guild different. And the big thing is we do choreography. We put on stage shows, we put on performances, we do videos, we do all kinds of things where we put the action, basically an action figure, and present a little bit more of a kinetic experience for people. This could be everything from youngling training all the way to working on full-on shows. So one thing we definitely wanted to spend some time doing was kind of showing off some examples of the choreography we do, as well as give our council members here a chance to kind of talk about what goes into the choreography, how we put it together, what goes into the thought process, everything from some original fights to recreations of famous movie fights. So we're going to go ahead and start with the fight that Armando did with Alexis, who is currently in our audience as well. You will recognize this fight pretty quick. Armando, feel free to talk about it at any point of how you put it together, what you did to kind of figure it all out.
Yeah. So we did the Obi-Wan versus Maul kind of recreation where after Qui-Gon is felled, we both loved the fight. I loved Double Saber and he loved Obi-Wan as a character. So we started by watching the fight on YouTube at the slowest possible speed, several, probably 100 times, and notating what each hit was specifically, where the blade went, how they moved, in order to recreate it as best as we can. And then once we had that down, we just kept practicing, practice, kept watching it to make sure the footwork and the movement was as close as we could get it. And it was super fun for us to do. It's a bonding experience, and we were already close friends, but it's definitely a bonding experience for us to do it. The more we did it, the quicker and better we got. And we actually ended up doing it at Celebration last year in Chicago. So it was super fun to do it for the audience, and then also within the fight pit just for the Saber Guild members. So what else can I tell you about it?
What was the hardest thing to learn in this fight for you?
So the hardest thing for me was getting the speed with the footwork. So Ray Park, the footwork that he did is very deliberate, and it's simple yet very quick. So in order for you to move at the way that he did, you had to be able to understand the footwork of it, because it's not just the way the blade moves. And the blade almost comes secondary, because initially some of the movements that you do with the blade feel a little bit counterintuitive until you get the footwork down, and it just kind of flows. And then once you get that down, you're like, holy crap, this makes total sense. This is great, you know? It makes total sense exactly where the blade's going to go. So that was the hardest part to nail down at first. And then after that, at least for the maul, I can speak to the maul part. Obviously, I learned the obi part as well, just to understand the fight better. But the maul part for me, that was the hardest to nail down, the footwork.
Okay. So that's an example of a one-on-one fight or recreation that we often go through and do. Obviously the prequel fights are big popular one for a lot of people because of how much movement there is to it and how much involvement there is. Going on to something a little newer, this is one for Chrissy and Cade. If you can go ahead and once we get it going,
Yeah.
we'll go back to the beginning a little bit.
Oh, I hate looking at my own face, but we'll power through it. So, one of the things I really enjoy is the throne room fight. Mostly because most of that fight is actually CGI. They do, obviously, you can see a lot of the behind the scenes work for the choreography, but so much of the connecting of the blades actually just doesn't happen. And you realize that after you spend time to slow it down and watch it 1,000 times just to catch the movement of what everybody's doing. This part that you're watching right now, which is like the beginning, where everybody is coming at Kylo and Rey at the same time, that's one of the few points of the fight where actual choreography and blade connecting is happening. But for the most part, you know, you don't realize this stuff until you slow the choreography down and kind of try and keep up with it. You see a lot of like crazy stuff, like Rey's saber disappearing when she drops it. You know, obviously the sword whip is not a thing that you can participate in without some serious danger, even with a stuntman. All of that is CGI. And, you know, coordinating stuff like this, which is there's five Praetorian guards you see here, in addition to me as Kylo and my fellow member Hannah as Rey. That going into this takes a lot of coordination and practice and just understanding of what your partners are doing, and trying to make a fight that is meant for, you know, the silver screen and have it happen in theater, which is obviously what we do. We don't most of what we do is live performance. Trying to make that happen and make it tangibly, you know, recognizable to somebody who's only ever seen the movie before. That's a challenge that we had a lot of fun kind of taking on and making it happen. But it did take us months.
You guys were practicing that for months.
But the whole goal here was to kind of make it so anybody who had a Sith costume could kind of change out, as long as Kylo and Rey knew what they were doing. Because each individual, you tackle it kind of by parts, right? So this part, and again in the beginning, where all five are rushing at the same time, is what's most, we'll call it dangerous, to kind of get right, because, you know, there's 1,000 blades and everybody has to watch what everybody's doing and watch where.
Oh, did we lose her? Did we lose him? Sorry about that.
I think they're frozen.
Yep, we lost him. Okay, what we're going to go ahead and do is move on to a different fight we have. This is going to be one for Addie. This is a performance from Celebration Chicago, where we last had our big get-together. And every time we go to Celebration, they reach out to us in order to help out with their youth room. They enjoy having us put on trainings. If you've ever been to Disneyland or Disney World or seen any of those, we do something similar where we go through and at varying levels of interaction with the younglings, we will teach them some basic moves. We'll teach them how to use the Force. We'll go through and just put on a show for them. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at Addie's version, because this is very interesting. We don't just reuse. So a lot of times we'll put together our own fights built from the top down, and it could take a while to get them, and some of them are long, some of them are shorter. Eddie, why don't you go and go through and talk about building this one?
Okay. So this was, funny enough, actually choreographed with a couple different people, but by the time we got to Celebration, I had to switch out fight partners. I am the Jedi in this particular fight. And the way that the Texas temples build their fights is we have what's called a 9-point choreography defender-based system where we assign different parts of the body are targets, and those each relate to one specific number. And so, for instance, the shoulder, like my left shoulder, would be 1. And it's always 1 on every single person, no matter who is fighting. And I know that I'm going to go for that target or defend that particular target when that number comes up. And we turn all those numbers into combos, and then those combos eventually get turned into fights like what you see here. So this is actually based on several of our combos, just in different orders and transitions and whatnot. So the funny part is that, like I said, it's a defender-based system. Although I'm sitting down right now, you can't tell, but I'm only 5'1". My fellow fight partners are actually 5'5" and 5'10". But even though we're all going for the left shoulder, I know that on me, I'm only defending at a 5'1" height, and on them, I'm either attacking or they are defending at 5'10". And so that's how we also maintain a lot of safety in our fights, is to ensure that we know that where the blade is going, and I have a pretty good idea of where to be at a particular time, because when you're fighting against 2 people and you're only 1 person, the hardest part is to control that fight effectively, because there are times when even in the middle of a fight, you'll forget exactly where you're going, and you just kind of have to trust your fellow fight partners that they're not going to accidentally hit you.
Yeah, and keep in mind that whenever we put these together, it takes weeks, if not months, for us to get it down to a point where we feel it's really good enough to put out and before people. We're not professionals. Well, we have a few professionals among our people, but most of us are just amateurs who've come on. We may have some martial arts experience. We may have some dance experience. Marching band actually was really helpful when it comes to putting together a fight. But we're just volunteers who once a week show up to practice, sometimes twice or 3 times if we got a big show coming up. And we just do the best we can with what we have. And which is one thing we always try and extend to people, because we want to make sure that anyone who comes to us, so long as they have an open heart and good intentions, is more than welcome, and we'll work with them in order to show that they too can do all of this. And what this is not just the performances you see, although that's a big part of what we do. Armando, do you want to talk about some of the things we actually apply these to? I mean, what is the purpose of us even doing this together?
Yeah, so there's lots of different things that we apply performances to, and then there's things that we do that are not performances that we also have a bunch of different events that we participate in. So it can be anywhere from the local convention that seems to be, what most people associate a lot of what we do with, to anywhere from hospital visits, charitable events when we're reached out to, kids' birthday parties. We also have, of course, any LFL events that we're reached out to specifically by, which we'll talk a little bit about how we're attached to them. But any events like ballparks, what else? I'm trying to think. Can't think of any off the top of my head. But sports
Camps.
teams. Yeah. So that can be performances. It can be what we call troops, which are when members just show up in costume for photo ops, meet and greets, or it can be Padawan trainings that we also do, which is a kind of performance, but it's a little different, where we can actually teach and train at some basic level what we do, and just kind of give, whether it's children or adults or a mixture of, a taste of how to start doing what we do.
And again, just a reminder that right now Forcefest is trying to raise money for Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is a charity that Saber Guild has helped in the past in various ways. So it's definitely something we care about. If you can donate, fantastic. If you can't, just share the link. Hopefully people get together and help make a wish for a young person. At Celebration Chicago, all of the Star Wars clubs combined, we were able to raise $35,000 for Make-A-Wish between all of our different efforts. So like I said, it's definitely a charity we care about, though we'll extend out to local charities, other major charities, just things that mean something to the community.
Yeah.
So I'm going to next send it to Cade, and I figured they could go in and talk about how, so long as their internet cooperates, how we are unique compared to other choreography groups, to even other costuming clubs.
Yeah, so big thing again with Saber Guild is that we are strictly choreography. So a lot of other Saber groups you'll see participate in dueling, stuff that's kind of recreating actual sword play. That's not what we do. But pretty much what we're mostly focused on is stage choreography, shows, kind of really getting into the character of things and bringing the screen experience to life. And that's to say, we do take ourselves fairly professionally. We try to really kind of embody what we're doing. That's kind of what, Lucasfilm asks of, well, they don't really ask of us, but like as a group that kind of has a closer relationship with Lucasfilm, we tend to, try to embody the character side of things a little more wholly. But that's not to say, that we take ourselves too seriously. We're still a bunch of, fans going out there and putting bathrobes on and swinging big, light sticks. Again, like Gabe said, we're not professionals. We are fans. Anything we do has the potential to backfire. Even with tons of practice, stuff happens. The show must go on. And not everything is always expected, and sometimes that's rewarding. That can have a kind of welcoming sort of atmosphere on its own. As you can see on screen, it's really important to kind of laugh at yourself when you're doing this, because sometimes even with the most planning, you never know what's going to happen. We do spend, a lot of us go to practice weekly, and we'll still drop sabers or, trip over our own feet. A lot of what we do can be like into dancing. And the other thing is to remember is, we do this for an audience that appreciates humor. Children like to smile. We're not there to scare them. So it's important to remember that while we do have this crazy makeup on and are swinging these sticks at high speed, we're a bunch of fans. We're a bunch of dorks, and we're their friends. We're not trying to be the Empire, as it were, or the First Order, as is my preference. But so yeah, it's important to remember that it doesn't. You don't need to be super skilled to do what we do. Safety is what's most important. And, it's totally okay every now and then to, remember that we're not any better than anybody else. We're just fans, and we just happen to be lots of fans grouped together doing crazy stuff at the same time.
Chrissy, would you like to talk about the costume of what?
Yes. So, like I said, I am the costume director, and so part of creating an immersive experience for our fans is not only practicing our lightsaber skills, but also having costumes that sort of reflect what we see on the screen. So there's a couple of different categories of costumes. The first is what we call face characters, and those are the characters who we see on screen. That's Rey, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Revan, all of these characters from media that already have a character built for them and already have a look built for them. And so for those characters, because they're so varied in terms of their costumes, we use the standards that are already built by some of the other groups, primarily the 501st and the Rebel Legion. We use those standards to determine whether or not someone's costume is considered screen accurate. And of those face characters, the ones who can be in Saber Guild are the force-sensitive saber wielders, since that's really what our focus is. But you're not just limited to face characters. In fact, I would say the majority of our members are actually original characters, either Jedi or Sith, who people design the costumes and then also create a character and a sort of personality to go with them. And so for those, we have a costume standard of our own. It's quite detailed. It has a lot of pictures to go along with it. And those standards are actually updated every year as new media comes out from the Star Wars universe, and as we see different type of Force users appear in the Star Wars universe. I know one of the things that we're all very excited about is High Republic. So, as soon as that media comes out, as soon as we have the not just concept art, but like the actual comics and the actual books, we are going to be updating our costume standards, or actually probably building an entirely new standard around just that Jedi. And, whatever other Force users we see coming out of that media. You are muted, Gabe.
Gotta make sure I'm not muted. One thing I will point out is our Facebook page, and the reason why I'm going to, if you go to our lovely page at facebook.com/Saber Guild fan page, we'll put a link in the chat here in a bit. You will see in our video section that our lovely costume director, Chrissy, who was just talking about our costumes, has a patterning tutorial and a sewing tutorial. So if you've never sewn before, or you're still learning, it's a wonderful way to get a nice basic costume in place, because you don't have to be absolutely perfect with your costumes. We do want you to look good, because if you look good, you feel good and you make an impression on people. But this is an excellent way to get to spend an afternoon, get an idea how to pattern, get an idea of how to put it together. Hold on one second. I'm being told. Switch to share screen. Sorry, my Facebook page is apparently not. Let me just do it this way. Okay, can you see it now? But you could find the videos here on facebook.com/Saber Guild fan page, the sewing tutorial, the pattern tutorial, and even an alien makeup tutorial put on by one of our costume counselors, who will give you an idea of how best to apply makeup, because let's be honest, there's more than just humans in the Star Wars universe. There's plenty of others that you don't have to quite go into as much detail on. Like you see, of course, the late great Peter Mayhew below with his Chewbacca mask. Sometimes you just need the right shade of blue or green or red in order to get something going. So definitely check out our video section, and we'll be more than happy to with that. So Armando, speaking of our Facebook page, actually this would be to Addie or Armando. Do you want to share our social media so people can kind of get an idea of where to track us down?
Absolutely.
As we take a detour to Ryloth.
I already dropped a couple links in the chat for our Facebook page and our website link, and Armando shared our Discord server as well. So yeah, you are welcome to get a hold of us through any of those methods, and we would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
Armando, that's not approvable, just to be clear.
We were speaking of non-human.
That's not approvable.
I was going to say, if you want to keep the beard and be an alien, Pantorans are one of the only alien species that we have with beards. You want to know why? Because George Lucas played one of them and he refused to shave his beard off. So
I've heard that before.
Pantorans can accommodate human facial hair.
The Bracks now have facial hair officially.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, we found that out. Wonders of Legends comics.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will mute myself again.
So, actually, Armando, go to you for something. Do you want to tell people how they can actually join us or get in contact with us in order to try and join us? Or if there isn't a temple in their area, what they can do?
Yeah. So we, like Abby just mentioned, posted links to the Saber Guild page and the Discord page. On those pages, you can always message either me directly, or you can message the actual page itself. Eventually, one or multiple of us will get wind of it, usually me, and I'll contact you, and we will actually direct you into a temple that is close by if there is one. If there isn't one, then we'll get you set up with a recruitment page on Facebook so that we can try and pull if there's other members who have an interest in your area, so we can connect everyone, try and already start to create a group that people can get to know each other, find out if they're close enough to start practicing, etc. So we kind of facilitate that to make it easier for everyone. In a lot of instances, actually right now, there's about 30 plus recruitment groups already out there that don't quite have temples yet. So for us, a temple is 5+ approved members. So there's some groups that have 1 or 2 or 3 and are working toward that status. We help not only support them in whatever they may need in direction, but also just in helping them manage the page and getting them organized. So you can also always feel free to Facebook message me directly. I'm pretty easy to find on any of those pages, but Discord is definitely one of the preferred venues, but Facebook works as well.
Sorry about that. I forgot to unmute myself. So, Addie, would you like to kind of give us an idea regarding who can join, what we're looking for in membership, how we kind of handle members along those lines?
Sure. So who we're looking for? Anybody who wants to join, pretty much. I think having just passion and desire to do this is really all you need. As was mentioned earlier, there are people who have had years of martial arts experience or years of dance training or theater training, but not everybody has. And even whenever I'm talking to some people at conventions, they always sit there and watch what we do, and they're always like, I would love to do something like that, but I don't know if I could because of insert various reasons here. And I tell them, I have no martial arts experience, and here I am. I have no theater experience whatsoever, and here I am. And my dance training was, as a very young child, over 20 years ago at this point. I will age myself here a little bit. And none of that matters. All we need is to have you show up at practice, and you can join us too.
Cade, would you like to add anything to that?
Maybe if my pork doesn't fall, yes. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's really important to highlight too. We are one of the younger Lucasfilm recognized organizations. We have, oh my God,
35 temples, 870 members.
We just approved 870 like 2 days ago.
Nice. I'm really bad with numbers, just as an FYI. So yeah, we're growing constantly at a kind of alarming rate, which is great. It's the good problem to have. So it doesn't matter where you are, in what part of the world, again, or how much experience you have, who you are, anything like that. If you're interested in swinging a lightsaber, we're here for you. We try really hard to be as inclusive as possible when it comes to anybody. So don't be afraid of your new community. I know that a lot of, especially in Camino Temple, a lot of folks who come to us are familiar with things like anxiety, stage fright, stuff like that. And Saber Guild is really a chance to kind of step out of that comfort zone with a group of people who know what that's like and are understanding. So if you're a kind of person who is like, I would never get on a stage and say lines, or I would never get on a stage and make a fool of myself in front of people, or I could never embody this character. That's crap. Don't listen to that voice, and go out there and do it. Because my staple character that I often go and perform as is Kylo Ren, and I don't know if you could tell, but I'm a 5'5" non-binary person who has a fairly high voice, and it doesn't matter. Kids don't know the difference. Adults typically don't care either. They're just happy to see Star Wars. They're happy to see it happening in front of them. And a lot of times, that kind of joy is infectious. So I encourage anybody who's thinking about it to jump on board. We'd love to have you. Again, if you're in an area where you're not sure a temple exists, talk to Armando, message up one of our social media links, and we'll be happy to connect you with some other nerds.
As you can see from the video, we have people of all body types, all sizes, all identifications, ages 13 on up to, I think, is our oldest.
We have one in Jakku who's 67. 67.
Yep, that is going to be our oldest member. So we definitely are looking for anybody and everybody who wants to make a difference. Armando, would you like to address lightsabers?
Nope. You cut off on the last part.
Would you like to address a question about lightsabers we had?
Yeah. So I just kind of typed a brief description, but we use combat grade lightsabers. So I have one because I figured I might need to here. So the combat grade lightsabers, there's tons of different makers everywhere, from some more famous ones that are known out there that buy them and sell them in bulk, or sell them in bulk, like Ultra Sabers and Saber Forge and a bunch of others. You can also get recreational hilts that are hilts that are made. I should have gotten one of those, but one of my Kylo hilts, for example, Vader. We all love the actual character hilts. So there's those, and then there are makers that make just custom ones, whichever ones you want. There are ones that come without any sound. There are ones that come specifically with soundboards, and then some of the newer, if any of you know about sabers, which is NeoPixel, which are brighter. The sound quality is a little better. Like I said, there's It's a very, very dark rabbit hole that you can go down. It's a fun one if you love Star Wars and you love lightsabers. But there's almost endless different types of specifications. This one, for example, is one of my favorite ones, which is a Saber Trio, and it has a soundboard in it. So it has a boot up and then lights up. You swing it around, makes noises, it's fun. The most important part, though, for us is the actual blade, and it's that the blade is a combat grade blade. That comes in a medium grade and a heavy grade. Both are combat capable. It's just important that the users use the same one so that there isn't any blade breakage, which does happen if they're differing. If a heavy grade blade hits a medium grade, mid grade blade, it's more likely to break it. So like I said, the hilts themselves come endless possibilities, endless variations. You just have to make sure that you have the combat grade blade itself. That's the most important part because that's what's going to take all the clickety clack damages. But that's just a little bit about it. And again, if you reach out to any of us, there's tons more information, tricks, tips, best practices that I'm pretty sure every member within Saber Guild can share. So,
one warning we do want to give people when you are buying a saber. Obviously, Disneyland right now with Galaxy's Edge, wonderful place to go. Love it. Can't wait to go back once it's safe. They sell lightsabers out the wazoo. There we go. This is the Rey Disney Park saber. You will see that the blade itself is not quite the same as what Armando just showed off. This is still a plastic, but it's a much thinner plastic. This is my Savi's Workshop saber that I got from there. And again, same style of blade that you see. They say that they're combat ready. They're not. They're okay for a little bit of click-clack back and forth. Just kind of if you're, there with a friend and you smack them a few times, but they won't hold up to what we do. And what we do isn't even the heaviest use for a lightsaber. So if you are buying a lightsaber that is either from Disneyland or from another place that's going to have, like, it's a replica of one from the movies, make sure that it is truly combat grade if you want to jump in. But if you just want it for show, then it's a great high quality piece of decor or costume prop. But there is a big difference between what I just showed you and what Armando does.
Yeah. So
one of the things that we frequently have is for face characters, people will have two lightsabers. One is a more accurate hilt that is specific to the character, but that is not combat grade. And then they will have a different hilt with a blade that is combat grade, but the hilt is maybe not necessarily screen accurate. It's just the correct color. Yeah. So Kay is over here showing their two different Kylo sabers.
Yeah, so I've got the screen accurate one with all the bells and whistles. Obviously, you can see all that. And then my cross guard for combat is obviously missing all of that. So, but you can see it's still got the prongs and such on it. I'm not going to turn on because it's very loud.
Yeah. We do understand that a combat ready replica saber in some cases can go for over $1,000, and that's a too high price to pay to get people to join. That's unreasonable for us to expect. Yeah. Was there something else you wanted to add, Armando?
Yeah, the only other thing that I failed to mention is the blades. What makes them combat grade capable is the fact that they're made of polycarbonate, so it's important. So as you're looking for combat grade blades, to Gabe's point, do not be fooled by things like Savi's Workshop. There are a few other brands out there that sell, very nice looking sabers. But the blades themselves cannot hold up to the combat. So, if I give you a little example of just the ability to, hit a few blades, and they still will not budge, will not break. So it needs to be able to hold up to that abuse. And polycarbonate is what the mid-grade and heavy grade blades are made out of. And a little less in the mid-grade blade is just going to be a little thinner in diameter. Which makes it a little bit lighter, easier to wield, but it still has that heft to be able to stand up to the abuse that we put them through.
Just as a quick reminder, as we're going along again with Forcefest, we are trying to raise money for Make-A-Wish. The goal is $3,000, which is definitely easily doable. We just have to get enough people working together. So if you got a chance, go ahead and hit up the link or share it with other people, and we'll see what we can do to help out and get a nice wish going for a young person who's facing something, especially during these times. It has got to be even a little bit more unbearable to go through. So I think we covered most of what we wanted to. That gives us a few minutes to throw it open to the floor to see if there are any other questions, whether about us, how we got involved, what we use, how we put costumes together, things of that nature. Again, I'll remind you, we are Saber Guild International. We are the largest choreography and costuming club in the world that is recognized by LucasFilm. That just means that LucasFilm knows we're out there, and that on occasion they'll reach out to us in order to do special events. We'll often do things at Celebration, specifically for Celebration itself. A lot of times we will go to special events at ballparks. If you've ever seen costume club people out at, minor league game, a hockey game, anything like that, good chance that we're going to be some of those people out there. And if they have a partner or a special charity like Make-A-Wish, they'll reach out to us. Saber Guild has been around since 2008. We went international in 2012 with Celebration Orlando. Yes, and we love our cat gifts as well.
The local costume consular and global costume consular chats are notorious for constant cat photos. Like at least once a week we start off a cat photo cavalcade.
All of my cats are named after Star Wars characters.
Yes.
All 4 of them. So, you're in good company. But going back to the, now that I remembered that something else I wanted to say about while we're waiting for questions and such, the inclusivity conversation. Speaking of like all body types and all levels of capability, we really do mean that. I actually, while we were prepping for Emerald City Comic Con 4 years ago, we were doing kids training, and I took a force push and I landed awkwardly and broke my ankle. So that's a really good example of like, sometimes it doesn't matter how safe you are, some stuff just happens. And that injury still bothers me. I actually, what happened was, I'll try not to get too graphic, but what happened was I had taken a force push, fell awkwardly on my ankle, and the bone that like sits on top of my ankle rubber banded and sheared the top cartilage. So it was a pretty bad injury. I had to get surgery for it. But initially, I was just diagnosed with a fracture. That was before they did the MRI on it. And so the first month I had to wear a medical boot, and I couldn't put pressure on it at all. But obviously we had the con in a month, and we had nobody to replace me. Now keep in mind, like, if ultimately there was nothing that could be done, we would just find something else to do. But I'm stubborn, and I refuse to kind of sit down and back. So with a month left, my group altered the script and altered the deal. Do not alter further. And I performed in a medical boot on a knee scooter. We did the kids training, and I rolled out in my Sith costume on a knee scooter with a black medical boot. So it was still in standard. I had a black sock on, so like unless you were really looking on video, you almost can't tell, except for the knee scooter. And we just did the show, and it didn't matter. I obviously didn't do any choreography. What we did kind of like a force mind trick thing where I was controlling one of the Jedi to fight the other Jedi. And there was a kid in the audience who was in a wheelchair at the time. It was just crazy happenstance. They had come to the show, and they were so excited to see another disabled person, like, being a Jedi. Well, being a Sith. I don't do Jedi. And they were so excited. And it, that just, when we say we're inclusive of everybody, I really do mean that. It doesn't matter what your physical ability is. your temple will find a place for you. We'll find a way to get you involved in whatever we're doing, as long as it's safe. And I think it's really important that we highlight that, because a lot of people look at the stuff we do and just at Saber Guild in general and like, that's so physical. I don't know how I would ever have the energy to do that, or I don't know how I would ever be that athletic. And I can promise you, I am not very athletic. I am a duck with 2 left feet, and I trip over them constantly. So, please come to us. We want to share the love with you. Don't laugh at me.
Well, we do, but we do it out of love. Just to let people know who might be interested in joining, due to the pandemic, we are being careful with practice. We're allowing each temple is kind of handling things depending on how they feel is safe in the area based on local health guidelines, doing their best to make sure that everyone wears masks and keeps any chance of transmission down. So we are still having some practices in some areas. Other temples are waiting. They may have an indoor practice space, or just because they're a large group. I mean, how many members are in Camino now?
We're over 50.
55.
55?
Something like that.
What Camino has been doing is dispersed practices with no more than 5 people.
It's illegal to be more than 5 right now.
Right. So they're all in outdoor spaces. They're all masked. And so we basically have sort of a distributed micro practice shtick going on right now, where different people have volunteered to sort of run their own mini practice. I do also want to say that we have updated guidelines for costumes that include guidelines for masks. So you can absolutely still wear masks in costume. There's a couple of specific rules for making sure that like you're not wandering around as a Jedi with like a dinosaur mask on. We've had a lot of people who have done like drive-by events. We've had a lot of temples that are putting together videos. And in fact, Camino put together a PSA on wearing masks. So we do have costume guidelines for how to add a face mask to a costume. So that is an option for people.
No, it's funny with Cade mentioning that there was a child who was in a wheelchair and saw them rolling around on their scooter. Our former membership director, Amy, is Asian American, and she is a part of one of our New York temples, Empire Temple, in the Manhattan area. And she has a story she tells on Looking for Leia, which is a fantastic documentary series if you get a chance to look at it. I know we had some members definitely show up in it. Camino did some videoing with them. Empire did some videoing with them. And Amy talks about the first, she was the lead in a youngling training. And after the training, a mother comes up to her and starts talking about how excited her daughter was because she'd never seen an Asian Jedi before. And so for her daughter to be able to learn from somebody who looked like her just meant the absolute world. It made the weekend for her daughter. And I still can't tell or hear that story without tearing up a little bit. But that's one thing we definitely try and go for, is making sure that anybody and everybody not only can be included, but have a chance to be in the lead. And we understand not everybody wants to be in the lead, because it definitely takes a certain amount of ego or stubbornness or both to be out there in the middle of a fight. I love, though, that there's an indignation from you all, but no denial.
I didn't shrug them. I didn't shrug at all. I'm like, yeah.
I did a little. I got a little mad, and I was like, no, I guess I can't get mad.
Okay, I've been the lead twice, and that's definitely correct.
Yeah. But if someone wants to step up and be the lead, we don't care what they look like. what their situation is. So long as they're willing to put in the work to do the best they can, we'll put them out there. Center stage, leading a training, being the head of a fight, being the lead in a show. So yeah. Speaking,
Camino has actually. We try really hard to make sure that when we are doing events that are for a specific audience, that we're taking that into account when we do our casting. For example, we've done several shows at Geek Girl Con, and so we make sure that when we're putting together casting for those, that we're telling stories that are predominantly about women, because that's who our audience is, and that's what they're there to see and celebrate. So, we really have this goal of creating an immersive Star Wars experience for our audiences, and that means everybody getting to see themselves in the characters who are on stage, and everybody sort of getting to see themselves in the stars.
And here's an example of that.
As I say, this was last year's Geek Girl Con show. This is actually a show that I wrote the script for, and I ended up being cast as the Jedi Master. You can see me in the blue tabards, or the green tabards up there. I just got distracted by Caitlin's blue tabards. But yeah, that was it was a show. It actually had a pretty heavy premise. It was about child abuse, effectively, and sort of escaping abusive past, and finding a place in a community that is more supportive, and the way in which that is sometimes really uncomfortable and awkward if you've grown up in a sort of dysfunctional environment. How difficult it can be to let people in and to sort of embrace that love. I'm going to start crying about that show. It's a very personal show, and everybody who was involved in it did a really phenomenal job bringing the characters to life and sort of creating this really cool story that we got to tell.
Do you need a cat?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Do I have to go collect a cat for you?
I was going to say Kleenex might be nice, but I think I'm good.
And we have a huge variety of shows that we tell as well. I mean, give you an example. What Chrissy just described was a very personal, half-hour-long show. They put a lot of time into. I know Armando at Chicago, it was 3 of you from Dagobah Temple in Miami, 10 minutes long, but it's still told an important story, and you guys were able to kind of help bring something together with a smaller cast, since Dagobah is a little bit smaller than Camino, so it doesn't matter about having a huge group. The small group can still tell a very powerful story.
Yeah, I think that's one of the funnest parts of getting started in Saber Guild, is creating who your character is, not only designing their outfit, the outfit that you want to don, but also just creating who your character is, where they've been in the universe, and finding a link to who you are as a person, and finding that not only escape in the Star Wars universe, but just a way to kind of make it your own, and then not only doing it as you're joining, but then finding a way, when the script is able to do that, to bring that character to life in the show. And what I mean by that is, depending on what character you have approved, sometimes, certain scripts lend themselves to you being able to portray your original unique character, and some don't as much. Some you have to, kind of bend to the narrative. But that's definitely one of the funnest parts, especially when you get to join, is really diving into that universe, and attaching yourself as a person to it. So,
Addie, what do you guys do in Austin when it comes to a show? Something similar to the two you just heard about, or along different lines, or?
So the way that we actually structure our shows, we tend to have two set versions, and that's whether we're doing a kids training or an adult show. And by adult show, it's more like an adult training to kind of recruit them into Saber Guild, where we show them kind of a behind the scenes look as to how we put things together. But for our kids shows, we actually have small snippets of scripts where there'll be a little bit of an introduction to kind of help set up the story, and then we attach a fight to that. Just because of the nature of our temple, we have people who are constantly coming in and out of the ability to perform just due to busy schedules, things like that. It is a tech town down here, so we have people who are traveling all the time. For work and whatnot. So we set it up that way they don't necessarily have to 100% be there, or we suddenly lose the whole show. We can just switch out that fight with somebody else and then still keep the narration and wrap that around it. And then at the end of it, the kids get to force push the Sith away at the very end, and they all get a huge kick out of that, because who doesn't love to beat up some Sith? Sorry, Kay. Sorry, Armando.
You're just jealous
Part of the
how
job. Part of the job. That
the crew
that idea of having these kind of segmented script parts, the compartmentalization, where you're able to have this role is easy to kind of plug in and plug out based on, someone no longer has the availability, someone gets sick. That's something that Dagobah does as well, and it works really well for us. There's some that are easier to do, like, Padawan trainings. If the whole temple knows this is how we do it, it's very easy to kind of move those around. And then some that are a little bit more traumatic, where it's like, hey, we've been training for this event this whole time, and now this person can't make it. Who can do the part? Who is an understudy, which is something that we've been, pushing toward, who already knows most of it, and can just kind of, take that part and run with it. So that's definitely something that we've implemented here. That's a huge help too. So.
Okay. Well, we're getting to the end, so we should probably wrap up. Addie, you want to go ahead and give us the locations for all of our PR and social media stuff, such as Discord, Facebook, website?
Sure.
Well, Discord, no, because obviously it's a little more complicated than that, but
I will re-link things again, because I know that chat tends to get buried. So the easiest way that you can find us is just go to saberguild.org. That is our website. You can email us from there and get a hold of anybody, and we can direct you to the temple that you need to get to, if there is one there. And if not, you'll just get sent to Armando, who I'm not sure which, there we go, and can get you to the recruitment group that you need to. Past that, you can also find us on Facebook at Saber Guild fan page, and also message us there, and you'll get a hold of one of us, and we'll be happy to chat with you. You can also follow us on things like Instagram and YouTube, and look us up there.
And again, if you get a chance, Connie will be wonderful enough to post up the link again. If you don't already have access to it, we are once again trying to put together a wish for someone. We don't know who it'll be going to, but quite frankly, it doesn't matter. A lot of these kids, they just want a little bit of happiness before, well, hopefully before they overcome their disease and manage to go on to very long, happy lives. But even just helping them get through a rough time in their life is a wonderful thing to do. It's something we strive to do in Saber Guild, and we'd love to have you all join us in helping to do that, especially once the pandemic is over, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to need some Star Wars love, and we'll be there to help them out. So for my fellow panelists, again, my name's Gabriel. I'm the Assistant Global Director for Saber Guild International. We hope to see you out there, and have a wonderful rest of Forcefest.